When will the general election be held? The Seychelles 35. Who are they and why are they in Sri Lanka?
Hello there and a very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. For the News First team, I'm Dasni Athada. Starting off with your top story tonight, curfew will be relaxed across the island from tomorrow. Issuing a release, the President's office says island-wide curfew will only be in effect from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. on a daily basis until further notice.
How will the quarantine law be implemented from tomorrow?
Everyone who is at work should pay attention to the website of the Ministry of Health. A number of recommendations have been posted there. Those should be considered as quarantine laws.
What is not allowed?
We have not allowed spas and gyms to reopen. The Director General of Health Services asked me to express that owners of spas and gyms should follow the relevant instructions and prepare to reopen their establishments. Small hotels and mobile food stations will not be permitted to open.
What preparations are underway to open Colombo and Gampaha districts?
Special programs are being carried out by health authorities and the police in the Gampaha and Colombo districts. Investigations will be launched to arrest people who do not maintain social distancing. Police officials in civil attire will also be deployed. Camera phones have been handed over to them as well. After recording any violations committed in this period, uniformed police officers will arrest the violators.
What action will be taken against those who violate quarantine laws?
The law will be strictly enforced. There is a need to tighten the law at wine stores because quarantine laws seem to be violated, particularly at those places. Around 55,000 people have engaged in these affairs. Also, we will inspect footage of CCTV cameras fixed at various institutions. Intelligence units will monitor how social distancing is maintained at queues outside shops.
This is not a challenge faced by you and I. Every citizen of the country faces it. Personnel on duty at the IDH and MRI managed to evade contracting the virus by using simple yet effective scientific methods. The society does not pose an immense threat to an individual. However, always act under the impression that you could contract the virus through someone in society and follow health and safety regulations to avoid contracting it. Always follow social distancing measures, keep your hands sanitized, wear a face mask and avoid touching your nose and mouth.
The Railways Department has taken measures to increase the number of trains that will be in operation from tomorrow onwards as part of reinstating normalcy in the country following the COVID-19 outbreak.
10 trains along the main line, 9 trains along the coastal line, 5 trains along the Putlam line as well as 1 train along the alternate line will be in operation from tomorrow onwards. Additional carriages have been allocated to trains and those who wish to travel in these additional carriages will be permitted to travel in them after they show their work IDs. I also request those residing in Colombo and Gampaha districts to refrain from using trains as railway services have not yet been extended to these districts.
Deputy General Manager of the Sri Lanka Transport Board, A.H. Panduka, said buses will be in operation as usual in all districts except in Colombo and Gampaha from tomorrow onwards. The Ministry of Passenger Transport Management said interprovincial buses will be in operation from tomorrow, keeping in line with the health guidelines in all areas except Colombo and Gampaha. Bus services will be available from 4:30 a.m. to 6 p.m.
On to your latest COVID-19 update, the 10th death due to COVID-19 was reported today. The deceased was a 51-year-old woman who had arrived from Kuwait and was undergoing quarantine in Trincomalee. Director General of Health Services, Dr. Ranil Wickremesinghe, confirmed the 10th death this evening in a statement issued by the Government Information Department. Meanwhile, 21 people who tested positive for COVID-19 were discharged from hospital following complete recovery today. This takes the total number of recoveries in the country to 695. 41 new cases have been reported for the day so far. Accordingly, the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the country is now at 1,182. 477 individuals continue to receive treatment in hospitals. Also in local news, a woman died after being attacked by wasps at the Dikoya estate in Hatton.
A group of people who were plucking tea leaves at the Dikoya estate were attacked by wasps. According to our correspondent, the wasps had been disturbed by an eagle soaring in the area. The police and the estate workers took steps to save the people who had been attacked by the wasps. 6 women and 8 men who suffered critical injuries were admitted to the ICU at the Dikoya base hospital. However, a 52-year-old mother of 4 succumbed to her injuries. According to our correspondent, the deceased had arrived in the country after serving in a foreign nation.
Former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe urged the government to reveal to the country the true state of the economy.
At
present, the general public is in dire straits. They are destitute, unemployed, and have no mode of income. Cost of living is rising each day. The government has fallen to such a helpless state where they cannot provide the 5,000 rupee allowance. State sector employees were not given festival bonuses. All this is a stark revelation of the frail state of the economy. Financial indicators have forecasted that Sri Lanka could be included in a list of countries which are predicted to go bankrupt in the future. The Economist magazine points out, of all South Asian economies, Sri Lanka's economy has been affected the worst. In 2019, the debt burden amounted to 87% of our GDP. It is forecasted to hike to 93% towards the latter part of this year. By 2021, it could reach 100%. By 2023, the debt amount would rise to $10 billion. This year alone, $3 billion in debts should be paid. By October this year, $1 billion should be paid per day. According to the Fiscal Management Responsibility Act, the government must update the economic plan and reports of financial activities in a timely manner. That has not been fulfilled. The last report was published on the 23rd of March, and that was a report on the pre-election budget. However, by now, the economic factors and financial status of the country has changed. Therefore, the report issued on the 23rd of March can be considered defunct. Against such a backdrop, it is the responsibility of the government to issue an updated and comprehensive report on the current financial status of the country. Based on this report, a fresh economic framework should be established. This is simply not a matter concerning numbers. The future of the people hangs in the balance. Therefore, we request the government to reveal the true state of the economy to the people. Remaining silent without doing so will only worsen the situation.
The All Ceylon Canteen Owners Association says that prices of food products will have to be increased as taxes of many essential food items have increased.
The special commodity levy on sugar, dal, potato, dry fish, salmon and a number of other imported food items was increased last Friday. The same tax on grapes, apples, oranges, peanuts, sweet potato, margarine as well as spices and palm oil was also increased.
While canteens will reopen tomorrow, we will have to include the recently increased taxes in the price of our food products. We will have to increase the price of a packet of rice. We will also have to increase the prices of vegetable rotis, rolls, kottu, paratha and egg roti and all other food items produced in restaurants because we need coconut oil for all those products. Do they expect us to make roti with water?
What is the stance of the Elections Commission on holding the elections? We questioned the chairman of the Elections Commission about the matter today.
When can the elections be held? We can confirm this date after the Supreme Court gives their decision. But when we are deciding this date, we will consider the health conditions of the general public of the country, the advice of the health sector, and if there is any threat to the health of the general public. Secondly, we will consider the time that is needed for our officials to complete their tasks. Thirdly, we will consider the time frame needed for political parties to conduct their election campaigns and provide a fair playing field for all candidates. We will consider all of this when deciding a date for the elections. While the Elections Commission is of this stance, these are some of the views expressed during a media briefing at the party headquarters of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna.
When we consider the actions of a certain member of the Elections Commission, we wonder if he is acting to hold the elections or to create a situation where the elections cannot be held. Professor Hool used a government vehicle and brought his daughter to the office of the Elections Commission. She is the person who was quarantined and should have been kept away from the general public for some time. If Professor Hool's daughter is being brought to the Elections Commission amidst protest from the staff there, then there is a risk of the entire premises being quarantined. Can you open all the doors of the Elections Commission and invite family members of the Commission who had undergone quarantine? Do they have an open invitation to come there at any time? Are Professor Hool and his family above the law?
ආචාර්ය හූල් හා එතුමාගේ පවුලේ සමාජකයන් නීතියට උඩින්
No, that opinion is completely wrong. We reject it. In a democratic country, just because we have the power to govern the country does not mean that we get to decide who goes to jail and who doesn't. No, this incident happened a few days ago.
The opinion of the chairman of the NEC is that the situation in the country is not conducive to hold an election. Recently, he had written a letter on the allowance that we gave to the general public and requested us to reconsider if we should give this allowance from the next month or not, as the situation in the country has returned to normalcy. On one hand, they are saying that the situation in the country is not good, and on the other hand, they are saying that the situation in the country is getting better, and to reconsider paying the allowance to the general public.
හඬකිනුත් ඒ වගේම රටේ තත්ත්වය ඊටාම හොඳ වෙමින් තියෙන නිසා මේ මුදල් ගෙවීම නොකිරීම සුදුසුයි කියන එක තව හඬකිනුත් ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා එකක් පේනවා.
අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා මැතිවරණ
We hope that the Elections Commission will take steps to hold the election as soon as possible without any delays. Also, as a party, we have taken steps to prepare to face the elections that are coming up as the first step. We will convene all of our party activists and prepare to hold a series of election rallies across the island.
අපි ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොදු ජන පෙරමුණේ ප්‍රමුඛ ක්‍රියාකාරීන් කැඳවලා දීප ව්‍යාප්ත රැස්වීම් මාලාවක් පැවැත්වීමට අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු මේ වෙන විට සූදානම් කරන් තියෙනවා.
Queries arose as to whether the country possesses an environment conducive to conduct an election during a media briefing organised by the Samagi Jana Balawegaya today.
If health authorities recommend holding an election claiming the lives of the people are not at risk, and if all political parties and the NEC can arrive at a final decision, it is suitable to hold the election in another 2.5 months. We can see the situation being controlled to some extent. Therefore, we can predict the situation which would persist in another 2.5 months and then go ahead with the election process. I am of the stance that an election should be held. The stance of the SJB is also clear. We never oppose the election. All we want is for the election to be held once a conducive environment to do so arises. We do not agree with the postponement of elections.
The COVID-19 curve has not flattened in the country as of yet. This is the current state of the curve. The curve keeps increasing each day. More than 50 people tested positive yesterday, which is a substantial increase. In contrast, the Director General of Health Services has claimed COVID-19 has been controlled and there is a possibility of holding the election. He expresses various opinions regarding it. This is a true dilemma. We need the Director General of Health Services to issue a definite month and date when COVID-19 will be controlled and whether or not the election can be held. He says one thing today and another tomorrow. He says COVID-19 is controlled and thereafter says we will have to adapt to live with COVID-19. He then says the election process can go ahead. This is a farce.
විගඩන් කතා හැටියටයි මං කියන්නේ.
While debates on how and when the election should be held continues, the plight of the general public also continues to go unnoticed. The shortage of fertilizer is only one such issue. We have raised this matter on many occasions in the past to no avail.
Farmers in Veligamba are suffering due to a lack of fertilizer. Paddy farmers in Kammalgoda, Watagedaramulla, Velipitiya, Denipitiya and several other areas in the Velipitiya Divisional Secretariat are affected by this. It has been 15 days since these farmers sowed their fields.
Many farmers have already sowed about 100 acres of their lands, but we have not gotten the fertilizer subsidy. They asked us to sign some papers and we were hopeful that we will get this in time.
Look at this, these plants are like this because of the lack of fertilizer. In a week all these paddy plants will be dead.
Farmers protested as there is no hope for a viable solution to this issue from responsible officials.
They come here, look at what is happening and then leave. They make some notes and that is all they do. The paddy doesn't grow properly. We request these officials to give us the fertilizer as soon as possible.
The general public is complaining about a shortage of rice across the country. However, the records of the Director General of Agriculture revealed that over 3 million metric tons of rice are stored at storage facilities across the country.
According to the Secretary to the Ministry of Internal Trade and Consumer Welfare, Bhadrani Jayawardena, the monthly requirement of rice in the country is 200,000 metric tons. She added that there is no shortage of rice in the country. She also said that a controlled price was introduced for rice after taking into consideration the production costs, and added that the welfare of the consumer was also taken into consideration. The Sri Lanka Rice Producers Cooperative convened a media briefing in Polonnaruwa today and spoke about the shortage of rice in the market. The government had the opportunity to sell about 1 million kilograms of rice to the consumers at a maximum retail price. When we look into the statistics of the Department of Agriculture, we can see that there is no shortage of rice in the country. We see this as a rice shortage created in the country as usual by a group of large-scale rice mill owners. However, recently, large-scale rice mill owner Dudley Sirisena expressed these views during a raid conducted by the Consumer Affairs Authority. Kiri Samba is cheaper than Samba. That is how the price fluctuates. I will prove to you, sir, that although the Department of Agriculture says that there are stocks of 3.2 million metric tons of rice in the country, it is not true. If I can't prove that there is not even 1.8 million metric tons in the country, I will give this rice mill to the government free of charge.
While reports continue to surface of an impending rice shortage in the country, this is the current state of the Hasalaka rice mill complex, which commenced operations in 1977. Agrarian societies reminisce. In the past, the produce which left the rice mill was exported to foreign countries as well. Paddy from many parts of the island had been brought to this mill, apart from the paddy purchased from the farmers of Minipe. The utilization of this complex had reduced following the year 1993, and by today, the complex is in a decrepit state with no sort of operation. Our correspondent revealed to us that certain people had scrapped the machinery in the complex and had sold it as metal. What you see behind me is the largest rice mill in Asia. It is now in a dilapidated state. The government, which falls on its knees at the feet of several private rice mill owners, can avoid that uneasy situation if these resources are taken advantage of. This would not only benefit the 8.6 million populace in the country whose livelihood is agriculture, but would also benefit all citizens in general. Certain virtuous decisions taken towards the welfare of the people are now inoperative due to politics. Had these institutions and complexes been safeguarded and utilized, talks of a rice shortage would have been the least of Sri Lanka's woes.
A controversy has arisen regarding the 35 Seychelles nationals who arrived in the country last Saturday against a backdrop where more than 300 Sri Lankans are stuck in Seychelles without being able to come to the country.
According to the Additional Secretary to the President, Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolambage, a special flight carrying 24 Seychelles nationals seeking medical treatment and 11 attendants landed in the country last Saturday. They have been directed to PCR testing prior to their departure from Seychelles. Admiral Professor Jayanath Kolambage said that following their arrival, all passengers have been directed to be quarantined at a 5-star hotel under permission granted by the government. Adding further, Admiral Professor Kolambage said that steps will be taken to conduct PCR tests on them and admit them to hospitals once their quarantine period is over. He said that the Seychelles nationals will bear the total cost for all these measures. They have also requested for treatment from a private hospital, and a majority of them are reported to be heart patients and kidney patients. These Seychelles nationals will be taken back to their country on a special flight as well.
We've had this long-standing cooperation in the medical sector, whereby Seychelles government has been sending a lot of patients, for specialized treatment. I can state that over the past few years, probably more than 2,000 Seychelles nationals have been to Sri Lanka, seeking different kind of treatment. Yeah, normally we have a few venues where we can send our patients. One of them is Sri Lanka. The other one is India. And sometimes people, they go to Mauritius, Réunion, a small French department in the Indian Ocean.
Issuing a release this evening, the High Commission said that 11 critically ill patients and their relatives arrived in the island. The patients had arrived in the country to receive treatment for non-communicable diseases. According to the High Commissioner, these patients require special treatment. Meanwhile, Sri Lankans stranded in Seychelles expressed their grief. We are stuck in this country for almost 3 months now. We have even booked our airline tickets. There are patients who are seeking treatment. There are people with expired GOPs. There are many who are unemployed. We very sincerely ask the authorities to bring us back to the country. The government doesn't have to pay for anything because we have already reserved our tickets. Some of us are unable to send money to Sri Lanka. Their families are in hunger. We spent the money we had on our tickets. Although all of these issues have been informed to the High Commission, the government has not taken a single step regarding these issues.
Why was the Seychelles Islands important to the government of Sri Lanka? The government must clarify this matter. We saw the island of Seychelles become a political topic in the country over the past few years. The Sri Lankan government went to start embassies there as well. They attempted to open a branch of the Bank of Ceylon there. There is an allegation that black money of Sri Lankan politicians are being laundered and invested in Seychelles. The people in Sri Lanka as well as those abroad need to know why these people are brought to Sri Lanka and who approved it. What are the deals the government has with these people? I would like to question the government as to whether protecting the people of this country is not your #1 priority. Can't you see the plight of the Sri Lankans who are living amid many hardships in Middle Eastern countries such as Kuwait? What is the reason behind prioritizing these citizens from Seychelles? What is this mystery? Is there a conspiracy behind granting approval for this? Have you forgotten the war heroes after the election? Please do not act two-faced. Prioritize the people of our country. We have not forgotten about Sri Lankan expatriates. We have begun the process of bringing those people back. We have justifiable reasons for bringing people from Seychelles or anywhere else. It does not matter if they are from Seychelles or Australia or Maldives or even from England. If there are people that should be brought to the country, they will be brought down. If someone raises accusations that we have money there and that is why we brought them, those are vilified statements. They did this during the war and in the recent past. They spoke about white vans. But I must say one thing. The actions that we as a government are taking against these false statements is very weak. If they are continuing to level false allegations, we need to investigate them. If someone is saying that these people were brought from Seychelles for their money, then someone must go and question them. How much of money did they bring? Who are they related to? And so on. We are weak in that aspect. I believe as a government we must strengthen it. Foreign media reported that the president of the Seychelles, Danny Faure, had launched a program to bring back their citizens from foreign countries. Under this program, the flight that brought the 35 Seychelles nationals to Sri Lanka flew back to Seychelles with 17 other Seychelles nationals on board the same flight.
As 70 returnees from Kuwait who are in quarantine tested positive for COVID-19 so far, tomorrow's scheduled repatriation flight from Qatar has been temporarily postponed. The Foreign Secretary, issuing a statement, noted that Sri Lanka's acting ambassador in Qatar has been instructed to immediately find accommodation for those stranded following the cancellation of the Sri Lankan Airlines flight from Qatar, which was scheduled for today. Now, 41 cases were reported in the country so far today. Out of these 41 cases, 40 of them have been identified as returnees from Kuwait, while the remaining patient was identified as a returnee from Dubai. Also in local news, how did the human-elephant conflict aggravate? How can we find solutions to it? Those in power always speak about these matters, but always fall short in practically implementing viable solutions. In the end, innocent people and wild elephants pay the ultimate price. For a comprehensive report on this, log on to our award-winning website www.newsfirst.lk, as well as our social media platforms, which are heavily active on YouTube, Instagram, as well as Facebook. The Nagitimu Sri Lanka theme song continues to gain more popularity each day among the masses here at home and across the globe. We wrap up tonight's bulletin with yet another rendition of the theme song. For the News First team, I'm Dasmi Athauda, along with our interpreter tonight, Brian De Cruz. Good night.
Nagitimu, Sri Lanka.